Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
I'm not going to get into the conversation I walked in on. I'm not. Don't go there.
No.
Don't go there.
The only thing I'll say, it did not involve us. We didn't start it or finish it or involve it.
I didn't participate.
I did not either.
Okay. Yes, you did. What are you talking about?
I was a spectator walking
You
by.
participated. Got me a break. Golly. Where do we find these people? All right. So, the hard work of the week is done. Tuesday and Wednesday are work days. Now the job is to take care of Saturday. And they'll do a walkthrough today, Fast Friday tomorrow morning, and then time to leave. Okay? And down to West Virginia. They will be allowed to dress 80. Big Ten's 74, but non-con,
okay.
The agreement between the two teams, they can dress 80. Penn State, though, will take the rest of the players down there Saturday morning, but they won't be in pads. Okay? But James wants them there. The first coaches show is tonight. And Pat Kraft will be there. We will talk a little bit about money because of the $45 million in donations, commitments that have been made to Beaver Stadium, but the other projects that go with it. We will talk training table. We will talk about Jeffrey Field. We'll talk about Beaver Stadium improvements. All those things will be topics that will be brought up tonight on the show with Pat. And then James will be there, and we'll get into the football team, and we'll get into the game. West Virginia is a very good team. There's no getting around it. They are a very good team. You do not go 9-4 like they did last year, and to be honest with you, completely foul themselves up in the loss to Houston. They took the lead with 30 seconds to go, and Garrett Green, who plays with a lot of guts, moxie, everything, put them in front on a spectacular run. Spectacular. Except at the end, he got a little off-kilter, and it was called for unsportsmanlike conduct. And that allowed Houston to get an extra 15 yards on the kickoff, and it gave them a shot, and they scored in the last play of the game and won. That was crushing, but they still ended up 9-4. Offensively, they have a lot of players back. And they've got one guy in the backfield that was here last year, but barely played, and that's Jaheim White. White he's not big. He's not big. But he's really quick and is a really good running back. He's out of York. That gives them a balance in the backfield between a hammer like C.J. Donaldson at 238, 239 pounds, and White with his quickness. To go with Garrett Green, who is an excellent runner. I don't think, based on the schedule and the quarterbacks they face, that they'll face a guy that may be a better running quarterback than Garrett Green. Now, he went to the Manning Passing Academy. He did all that in the offseason because he knows he has to be better as a thrower. And he was a 54% passer last year. 4 of those offensive linemen are back, but the big loss, of course, is Zach Frazier. Cole Taylor is a really good tight end. And their receiving core, Preston Fox is good. Bray is a transfer, came in from Oklahoma State. Robinson's a transfer who came in. So we'll see how they fit in and play. You feel like Carter and a couple of the other guys they had last year might have been better, but we'll see. But to me, the scenario you need to avoid in this game is the scenario that Georgia Tech put on Florida State last week in Ireland. And that is the ability to pound the football and get time-consuming, long drives, wear you down. And it turned out the Florida State-Georgia Tech game, each team had 7 possessions in the game. That's how you shorten the game. Remember last year we were talking about Rutgers with Kyle Monungai? That was the Rutgers MO. Game after game after game, you saw 9 and 10 possessions, 9 and 10 possessions, instead of each team getting 12 to 14 possessions. Well, for Rutgers, that was their MO as to winning games, was to control the clock, control the yardage, and keep your offense off the field. Okay. Now, they weren't good enough. Monongai's good enough, but they weren't good enough to do it, especially against Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. But that's their MO. In a lot of ways, that's how I think later in the year Minnesota wants to play. Minnesota's starting, I mean, that's going to be fascinating. I think Minnesota plays tonight, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they play.
Yeah, they play tonight.
Thursday night, yeah.
And what's going to be interesting to me is not the fact that they have that big offensive line that can run the ball with a terrific running back. Taylor's outstanding. But their quarterback's a transfer from New Hampshire. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not. Now, did I see New Hampshire play at all last year? I think I saw like a half of 1 quarter of a game where New Hampshire's on. I'll watch a couple minutes just because I like to watch different games once in a while, especially in stadiums. Oh, wonderful! Here we are in Durham. Is where they are. Dartmouth's in Hanover, I think. I think Dartmouth's in Hanover, and I think
it is.
And UNH is in Durham.
Durham, for sure, that one is, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't remember anything about him playing. So that's going to be fascinating to me tonight to watch some of that, to see how the transfer from New Hampshire plays at quarterback. So now back to the running game. Minnesota's running game is outstanding. Well, that's what Penn State has to stop here. They have to do it in such a way where they make Garrett Green try to win the game Saturday throwing the ball. And part of that is the Penn State offense putting them behind. If you can put them behind by a couple of scores,
absolutely.
Now it changes their mindset as to how they want to play the game. Defensively, I don't know. I know that Trotter, the linebacker, is a good player. I know that Cutter, the linebacker, and I don't think Cutter's going to start, but I think he's a good player. We know for Torba Mulba, the former Nittany Lions, the starting defensive tackle, and he's good. I mean, and he's good. I'm not so sure he'd be playing here right now, especially with the emergence of Alonzo Ford, because Ford has stepped in and Ford has played really well. So now you've got Beeman, you've got Durant, you've got Izzard, you've got Thomas, and now you've got Ford. You got 5 defensive tackles that can play. I know everybody's like, hey, Xavier Gilliam, the whole thing, Ford's playing. Okay. And the other part, too, about Green is this. We can talk about his accuracy as a quarterback, which we'll all find out as to whether he's improved in that area or not in the first quarter and a half of the game. But when you rush him, okay, you've got to keep him in the confines. You can't let him get outside to then put you in peril as to whether he's going to take off and run or whether he's going to pull up and throw it. So you've got to be able to keep him within a structured box defensively. And their defense, I'm not sure. And then we get to the secondary. Now, two guys I know. I mean, look, I know I've done a couple Garrett Hollis games, Jaheim Joseph, because they were at Northwestern. So I know they're both good players. They're good players. Are they great players? No, but they're good players. The one guy I don't know is the transfer, Garnes, from Duquesne. Evidently, West Virginia played Duquesne last year, and they were blown away by how well this kid played. Well, West Virginia wasn't the only guy that went after him to try and get him to transfer, but they were able to get him to transfer to Morgantown. But I know nothing about him. And I think it's just interesting that a guy that was at Duquesne last year, and obviously he impressed them, right, because they saw him in person, is now a starter at West Virginia. And I think that's an interesting part of it. The kicking game is really good. Hayes is a good kickoff guy. Hayes is a good place kicker. Oliver Straw is a very good punter. Preston Fox is good on returns. Okay, so they've got all that. Then we'll find out, obviously, with Penn State. The offense the defense is very good for Penn State. We all know that. Yeah, we all know that. This offense did some good things against them during the course of the preseason. But now you have to see it in a game. See, this is what makes college football so different than everybody else. Florida State didn't have any scrimmages before they went out. I'm talking about against somebody else before they played Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech didn't have anybody that they played against until they played that game. Right? So you kind of go into the game like somewhat blind as to how a couple of guys react against competition. I don't know. There's going to be a lot that goes into this. The technology part of it. The ability to communicate with the quarterback and, in Penn State's case, the middle linebacker. And Kobe King will be the one with the green dot. When he's not in there, Tyler Elston, I think, has the green dot. You have to have multiple helmets. You have to. The quarterbacks have to have multiple helmets. For example, what if Drew and Bo are both in the game at the same time? Only one of them is allowed to have the green dot. The other one has to go with another helmet. Because if not, it's a 5-yard penalty. So it's not worth it. Hey, let's do this. Oh, they both have green dot. Nope. Only one can have the green dot. Next. So the communication part, and everything shuts off at 15 seconds. All right? Now, or when the ball snapped. Second the ball snapped, it's an automatic shutoff. And there's an independent company that runs all this. So it's an independent group. They're the ones that do the shutoffs. They're in charge of the technology all the way through. So it's an independent party that does it. I think it's called Jason Lord Inc.
That's right.
I looked at James. I said, "Do you trust this group?" He goes, "Not really."
No, I'll tell you, that's unbelievable. Threw it in the trash too, no less. I can't believe it.
Yeah. But so that's part of it. The iPad part. iPads, number one, are not very big. I think I have the largest iPad size you can get, which is 12.9 or something like that. Does that sound right? Is that the largest one you can get?
I'm not sure.
Because for my stat monitor, which Jack Ham and I use, which Dick Girardi and I use, I wanted to get the largest iPad possible, so it was big enough for all of us could read it.
Yeah.
Right? I had other iPads before, 8s and 9s and things like that, and I said, well, okay. So I researched at the time. I think the iPad I use for stats on Saturdays, a year and a half old. Okay. Was 12.9. Well, do they make them bigger than that now? I don't know if they make any that are in the 13s now or maybe a 14. I don't know. But that's still not big. When you're talking about, like, let's gather the offensive line around, let's go through things. But at the same time, let's take this scenario on Saturday. Say it were to shower. and a shower is in the possibility.
Yeah, that could.
Phil Troutwine sits down, takes no iPads, right? Takes the whiteboard, ding, 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 ding. Well, guess what? It's going to get wet. It's going to run.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of the offensive linemen were telling me, he said, we had a couple of games last year. He was trying to, he said he finally junked the thing because the whiteboard was, all the moisture.
Sure.
You get, what's the number? I want to say you get 17 iPads. I think he gets 17. I think Penn State, there's 5 up in the press box where the coaches are. So in the coaches box upstairs, there's 5. On the offensive side, they get 5. The defensive side gets 5. Special teams gets 1. And there's 1 available in case James wants to use it. So I think I'm right around the neighborhood of where they are. They have had practices this year in Beaver Stadium where they've practiced with the 15-second shutoffs, and they've also practiced with timeouts with iPads because they have to get used to the technology.
Absolutely.
The next part is you saw it briefly last week, and ESPN. I was really surprised. Joe Tessitore did Monday Night Football, so he knows all about 2-minute warning, and they didn't handle that right at the end of the game.
I actually think the officials forgot about it for a second there because it winded down to about 1:57 there, and suddenly, whoa.
Well, no, but the 2-minute warning doesn't mean the clock stops at 2 minutes.
But there was no play going on, literally. Yeah, so I kind of wondered.
Right, you're right. It did keep running, but it was definitely under 2 minutes. It would have been under 2 minutes anyway.
But absolutely.
Because the 2-minute warning can be at 1:56 if you run a play at 2:02.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But that will be the next part of this: how you use your timeouts in each half. If you're a coach, you want to do everything you can to make sure you've got all 3 remaining. And if you have all 3 remaining, and I'm going to be interested to watch across the country tonight, tomorrow, Saturday night. I'll watch Texas A&M Notre Dame when I get back.
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas A&M is going to win that game.
It's been a tough game for Notre Dame.
Notre Dame has an excellent defense. Great secondary, excellent defense.
Yeah.
They have terrific skill players.
Yeah, yep.
Riley Leonard is a good to very good quarterback.
Yeah, pretty good.
But their offensive line is a big question mark.
Which is unbelievable for Notre Dame. That's usually not the case.
And Texas A&M is strong on the defensive front. And if any coach knows Riley Leonard, it's Mike Elko.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
Right? But I'm interested to watch that game, LSU USC as well. I don't know. What's the Monday night game? Do you even know what that one is?
I'm not even sure.
I think it's. But the reason I want to watch those games is because, I think those are good games, and watch tonight's games. But I want to see how coaches handle the 2-minute timeout. I want to see how, because with a 2-minute timeout, essentially that is a 4th timeout. And you're getting in that situation where hurry up or go. Well, guess what? Because you have the extra timeout, that doesn't mean you can't run the football. Kind of keeps everybody off balance a little bit because, that extra timeout, if you're the one with the ball, every coach is going to want to have that all 3 timeouts remaining. That way they feel like they've got 4 left in the half or 4 left in the game. Do you know what the game is?
Florida State and Boston College. I had to look twice. Florida State and national TV again.
So it's Monday night.
That's Monday night.
So it's Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
Okay. BC's not bad.
No.
BC's not bad.
I think it's a better fit for Bill O'Brien. I think it's a better fit. Number one, he's back home, but I think it's a better fit for O'Brien. And I think it was a fair trade. I think Chip Kelly's a better fit at Ohio State.
But this is a ripoff for Florida State.
Sure.
Okay. Number one, They open the game in Ireland, in Dublin.
Yeah.
And it's an ACC game.
Mm-hmm.
You either want a home game against a non-conference opponent or a bye week when you play a game like that.
Yeah.
The ACC stuck them on the road. Right? Now, and see, that's wrong.
Very.
They stuck them on the road. And, oh, yeah, we give you an extra day. It takes a long time to kind of get yourself back after making an overseas trip.
Agreed.
That's people can, because Florida State's been so bold about talking about, hey, we got to get out of this thing and the whole thing. So what? Okay, let's talk about
They're one of your premier schools.
Yeah, but let's talk about it from a football point of view. It's wrong with the ACC, dude.
Very wrong.
I know that, it also tells you that, they think that they're the TV draw. But that's wrong. They should not be playing. And that game's at Chestnut Hill, right? That game is not down in Tallahassee. Just make sure. I just want to make sure.
I think it may be in Tallahassee.
Well, if it's in Tallahassee, that's better. If they made him go to Chestnut Hill, that's a problem. Looking it up. Tallahassee starts with a T.
It does.
Right.
It just literally has verse. I believe it is in Tallahassee.
Well, it better be, because that's the only caveat you can have. And you know what's interesting about that? That means after this week, after Labor Day, Florida State only has 6 more conference games remaining.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, the pressure's on them at this point. When you lose that first game in the conference, the pressure gets on them.
So let's see.
Football versus Boston College. I'm going to assume it's in Tallahassee.
It's got to be in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Good. Well, at least that's a caveat. Okay, so you get an extra day. You actually get an extra 2 days. Okay, it's home. Okay, if the game were at Boston College, I'd be like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to see how the coaches handle the 2 minutes. When I watch USC LSU, I want to see how Lincoln Riley handles the 2 minutes. When I watch Minnesota tonight, I want to see how PJ Fleck handles the 2 minutes. I'll watch Notre Dame, Texas A&M, because I think it's an entertaining game. And I'm definitely going to be watching LSU and USC in Las Vegas. I think it's going to be terrific. Because I think Notre Dame and Texas A&M, is that, what time is that game? 7:30?
Prime time game, I think 7:30, yep.
7:30? I might be back in time to see the last 3 quarters.
Yeah, should be back for most of it, I think.
It's a 3.5 hour drive back, I think, from Morgantown. Now we're not staying there tomorrow night, but we're going to be a little further south. But that's what makes it an intriguing weekend. And college football has the weekend. Besides the U.S. Open Tennis Championship. I don't think people care as much about the Tour Championship in Atlanta. I don't think people really, going into this weekend, care so much about the U.S. Open. Next week, they'll care about it more. And then the NFL opens up next weekend. The 49ers are playing in Antarctica, right?
I think so. In Antarctica on Monday, we're at Aaron Rodgers' retreat.
They got the Jets right away?
They do have the Jets Monday night, yeah.
At home?
At home, yeah.
So he's going back to the Bay Area.
Yep.
He's going to pick that group apart.
Just like he always does.
He's going to pick that group apart. It is going to be...
He's played well against them in the regular season. Aside from that 30-8 debacle.
He has picked that group. He's going to pick your group apart.
Playoffs, another story. He's had a little trouble there.
Everybody's holding out. Everybody has money. You have a huge ego team out there.
You know what? There's half joke, half truth to that. I think when you look at what this team has done, and that could be a concern. Yeah, there's no question, especially if you don't have big number 71 there week 1. I think that's could be a very big concern. That offensive line's not good without him.
So you have this 8 more years to run on a TV contract that gets you billions.
Yep.
And you can't find the money to pay Trent Williams?
Apparently not. That's what that's... Ayuk, I think the way they played the cards on Ayuk was perfect. I think that continues to be perfect. But yeah, Trent Williams is kind of head scratching. I'm not putting Brandon Ayuk in the top 3 to 5 receivers. I'm just not. Top 10 maybe, but I'm not putting him in the $35 million range.
There are a lot of really good receivers out there.
There are.
To put anybody in the top 3 to 5, you have to be like, whoa, off the charts.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is in that conversation.
Mm-hmm,
That's why he's a guy you pay. I'm not even sure C.D. Lamb is in that conversation. He's close. He's closer than Ayuk, I think. But
you know what?
There's 3 guys to me that stick out: Chase, Hill, Jefferson. Those guys are better than anybody holding out right now, or anybody that wanted more money. Yeah, I just would not. Well, number one, the Niners can't afford him. They're not paying him. There's no chance at this point with what the Cowboys gave C.D. Lamb. You can't pay everybody, but I wouldn't have given him $35 million anyway. And if he goes,
no kidding. On this show, you're the one getting all the money. They looked at me and said, well, "Steve, we can't pay everybody." I'm like, going, "What the heck?" Right. They said, "Jason Lord's Jason Lord." I'm like,
"That's right."
Okay, I'm just out here doing it for nothing.
That's right. For the love of the game.
Pirate fans.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yesterday.
I cannot begin to express to you how awful I feel for you. I'm not fooling around. I am not fooling around.
This
is no joke.
Seeing Derek Shelton after the game, he feels it too. He completely feels it.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely that's as bad of a loss as I've seen this year and probably the last 2 or 3 years for that team.
I mean, I think it had been like 1,562 games since the team had a lead of that size in the 7th inning and lost.
Yep.
And Paul Skeens pitched yesterday, right?
Yep.
So Skeens goes out, does typical Paul Skeens things. I mean, who's just what a gem he is.
He's incredible.
And this happens. And it's also a day where you scored runs. This would be something where, if the Pirates had a lousy offensive day, right? Again, because that's been the problem over and over again. They can't score. And doggone, they scored enough runs yesterday.
Funny.
And they just flat out botched it.
Yeah.
And it's just been, the month of August has been a torturous month for Pirate fans. And I'm not talking about the club. I'm not talking about the players. I'm not talking about Derek Shelton. Because, you know what? The reason is this. Okay? Most of those players have been there a short period of time. Now, Shelton's been there longer. Pirate fans are there every day for decades. And they're aching to see their team do something good. Paul Skeens finally comes in. They're packing the ballpark to see him. Okay? They pack the ballpark when he pitches. Right? Because the Pirates finally gave them something to cheer for. Something like yesterday.
Yeah.
That is demoralizing
for everything.
It's demoralizing beyond words for the fan base.
No question. No question.
I'm not talking about the players. I'm not talking about the man, Ben Cherington. Ben Cherington gave a stupid word salad answer about where they are right now. He said, it's something about their analytics and boom and our season. And he used analytics like 4 or 5 times.
That drives me nuts. Drives me nuts.
It's like anybody who's giving word salad answers is a person you turn off right away.
Because you could see through it.
Because you're just BSing at that point. You're making it up. You don't know.
And you see through it as a fan. They're not stupid.
But it also tells everybody you don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Anytime you hear word salad answers, that person has no idea what they are talking about. And Ben Cherington had no idea what he was talking about in his answer about where they are right now. In the regime. He's making it seem like all our analytics and analytics and our analytics. Here's an analytic for you. You lost 9 out of 10 games. There's an analytic for you. Right? You lost the game.
You have a 10-3 lead. You're supposed to win the game.
10-3.
That's no analytic needed.
And you didn't lose 11-10. You lost 14-10.
Yeah.
Right? That's an analytic. Mm-hmm. How about that analytic, Ben?
Yeah.
Gee whiz. All right. How about this? How about go out and spend a little money and get some people in there, which he has no control over.
No, he doesn't. No.
But that answer was embarrassing.
Ridiculous. I agree.
Okay, in the last few years, I've heard some embarrassing answers. That was among the more embarrassing ones. And not all the answers I heard that were embarrassing happen to be in sports. But that was like the ultimate baseball word salad BS answer. I was like, what are you saying? If you want to turn fans off, you give that answer.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you have the exact quote? Because I don't have my phone with me today.
I don't have the exact.
Just Ben Cherington on status. Because I want to get to the spikes quickly about something that happened last night. I was highly critical in the ninth inning last night of the umpires working the game. But I have my reasons as to why. In the ninth inning, in a 2-2 game, it is obvious on an 0-1 count that the hitter checks his swing but goes around. Like there's some there it's like so close, you're like, I don't know. This one was a no-brainer. Home plate umpire calls it a ball. They appeal. The base umpire like hesitates, like was surprised to be asked, and says no swing. Okay, so there are two parts to this. One is a part that I eventually let go, but the other part is something I can't let go of. And that is, okay, you got the call wrong. And right? And my point has always been, I am never critical of any umpire or referee or basketball official when it's bang bang. Or it's like, I could see why he called it. It was close, the whole thing. My problem is when officials, referees, or umpires miss the easy calls. That was an easy call. But I would have let it go. Except the Spikes dugout started yelling out at the umpire, and he stopped, and he looked over, and I could hear him plain as day because I'm right above and he says, that's enough. And he walked over. That's enough. Then he went back, and Tim Battle, I guess, the manager, kept saying something, and he threw him out. So this is where I do have the problem, because I would have let it go right away, like, hey, look, they missed that call. And that's how right? But now you compound your mistake, and it was a mistake, by throwing the guy out who's right. That's where I at that point, I'm not going to let it go. You've lost control of the game at that stage. You missed an easy call, and it was an easy an easy call. It was an easy call. It was not a 50-50 whatever. No. Okay? It was an easy call. So I don't like when easy calls are missed. But I'll let it go and just go to the next pitch, next play, or whatever. But when you compound it by then throwing somebody out because they know you missed an easy call, and guess what? You know you missed the easy call too. Okay? When you compound it by exerting your power when the other guy is right, I'm not going to stand for that.
Yeah, and that's
on the broadcast. I'm not going to stand for that because, okay. But again, I would have just gone to the next pitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he decided to pull his little power play here and tell everybody to shut up. Right? Okay, fine. Right? And then he throws the manager out. Really? Well, guess which one of the two of you is wrong?
Yeah.
It's not the manager. It's you. And you won't admit it.
No.
Right?
No.
Well, guess what? You're going to be called out on it.
Sure.
I called him out.
Yep.
I would have said nothing after that. If they just say, hey, I would have said, boy, because now it changes what your next pitch is. Instead of 0 and 2, there's a big difference between 0 and 2 and 1 and 1 as to what you throw. Okay?
Yeah.
And at that point, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Because I would have just said, okay, that tough, whatever, because that's usually what I do. But when he threw Tim out last night, it was like, what are you doing? Guess which one of the two of you is actually right about the call? Okay? The guy complaining was the guy who was right. The guy that threw him out was wrong and compounded it. And that's why I complained about it on the broadcast. Okay? I don't like when easy calls are missed. It was an easy call. And I don't like when you compound it by exerting your power and telling everybody. There's a reason why they were yelling at you in the dugout. The reason they were yelling at you from the dugout is that you flat out got it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I always, we said pretty much when you played high school sports, the best officials are the ones you don't know.
Right.
Because, they don't, number one, they don't miss the calls. Number two, they aren't the show. They don't make it about themselves. And that's what I think so many people, unfortunately, do.
But here's the issue.
But the issue is when you're wrong.
The issue is
when you're wrong.
The game is tied.
Yeah. And when you're wrong, you got to admit
the game is tied.
Yeah.
And the winner of the game is in first place in the league.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's determined
So,
by,
in other words, the emotions in the two dugouts are heightened to begin with. You've got to understand the moment.
No doubt about it.
You've got to understand the emotions of the moment. That dugout's mad because guess what? The game's tied, and the winner goes into first place.
Yeah.
You've got to take that into account. You've got to be the bigger person.
Absolutely.
And that is at that point, when he did that, he lost me on the game. That was it. We were done. I had no use for them the rest of in the rest of the ninth inning. I had no use for them.
There are few people in the game of baseball that don't respect and appreciate Jim Joyce for what he did.
Sure, it did.
Blew the call that cost the guy a perfect game, and he owned up to it immediately.
And did Jim Joyce throw anybody out of the game?
No.
Nope.
Did not.
Right.
Was in his own tears knowing what he did.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what makes a good official.
Right.
They're human. It is part of the game.
I want the human element.
Exactly.
But I don't want
But you don't want the
after the
it's
mistake
my show
was made.
and I have the power.
Right.
And I'm not willing to admit I'm wrong.
Okay. Again, I would not have said probably anything.
Mm-hmm.
I may have mentioned it one more time or something like that, what a tough call it was.
Yeah.
But I would have ended it on the broadcast. I'm not going to end that when he takes the manager and throws him out of the game when he was wrong.
When he was wrong. Absolutely.
Sorry. But,
absolutely.
Okay, know the moment. Yeah. Know the situation. Know the emotions of it. Okay, you've got to understand what you're doing out there. Okay, this is the equivalent in an NCAA basketball tournament in the Final Four. This is not the same level, but you're doing the NCAA basketball tournament. You win, you lose. You win, you go on. You lose, you're out. And you tee up the coach in a tie game with a minute to go. That's what you're doing here. Okay? Only a hothead does that.
Agreed.
And I've seen people do that. Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely. And 99 times out of 100, when an umpire official does that, you make it worse. You make it exponentially worse.
And I was, I've done, now we all know I've done literally thousands of games.
Sure.
Okay, between football, basketball, baseball. Yeah. I've been so fortunate in my career. I'm into the thousands, not just 1,000, but thousands of games. Okay? I know what I'm looking at. And I know why I criticized him. And I criticized him because I never would have criticized him at all if they just moved on with the game. I would have mentioned, hey, the Spikes dugout's not happy, whatever, blah, blah. Things like that. Crowd's not happy, they're getting on him. Things like that I would have said. But the second he threw him out of the game, that was it. I sat there and I said, the bottom line is you guys botched the whole thing up you got called out on it, and then you threw the guy out that was wrong to call you out on it. Really? That's the kind of job you want? That's the kind of job you want to do? In a game where the winner's in first place and it's tied in the ninth inning.
Tied in the ninth inning.
Like,
yep.
Circumstances, big picture, everything that goes with it, right? You want to talk about a group failing every part of the test last night, okay? 2 of the 3 umpires. The first base umpire had nothing to do with this. First base umpire had nothing to do with it. The other 2 guys, they're the ones that fouled it up. The home plate umpire is the one that made it worse.
Yeah.
Third base umpire did not throw Tim out. He didn't. Okay? He did not do that. Now, he kind of seemed surprised. They asked him about the call, and then it's like, too many times I don't think those guys are watching.
No.
Right?
No, I agree.
I'm like
completely.
Oh no! There was one. Yeah. There was one in Williamsport this year, where a guy tagged up and took off early, and I saw him take off early. I saw it.
Watch it.
Right. And Spike's player made a great catch in left field. Makes a great catch in left field. Right. The runner took off. Okay. And I'm talking like he's a step and a half off the back. And I said right away on the broadcast, right away. This isn't one of some post-mortem thing, look at the replay. No, I said right away, I said they need to appeal to third. I said they need to appeal to third. It's obvious he left early. I said, because I saw him, because my own eyes, I saw him leave early. Well, they go down and they appealed to third, and the 2 umpires looked at each other like, is that your call, my call?
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden he said, well, it's your call. And the guy went, safe. Like safe? Okay? You might as well do the old Phil Rizzuto on your scorecard. WW. Wasn't watching.
Yeah.
He didn't see the play. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Nope.
Now, did it affect the outcome of the game? Well, I mean, the Spikes won the game. But I sat there and went, what are you doing here? I mean, I'm up here broadcasting the game. I got 5,000 things going on up here. I saw him leave early.
Yeah.
I said it right away. He wasn't even to home plate yet, and I said they need to appeal. All right? Stuff like that. Did you get the Charrington quote?
I did not.
I gave you one job.
Can't find it.
Cannot
find it. I go all the way back to July 30th.
No, this just happened.
No, nobody's criticized him yet. He's not gotten his heat yet, or it would have been somewhere.
I gave you one job.
I know. I Googled it in every possible way I could, too. They're still not helping me.
Those aren't websites the company wants you on. What are you doing? Are we at the end here?
Yeah, we are getting close.
All right, well then.
Yeah. But
tomorrow we'll have some interviews.
All right.
And then off to West Virginia. I have not been inside that stadium in 32 years.
Yeah, it's been. I was a kid last time I was at Morgantown.
I have not been in the Coliseum.
I have never been in the Coliseum.
In 32 years. I've done I'm going to say I've done at least 10 to 15 games in the Coliseum in my career.
Yeah, I've never
But I haven't been there. But I haven't been inside there in
91 was the last
3
time.
years.
Yeah, 91.
34 years.
Yep.
It's almost 34 years since I've been in the Coliseum. 32 years.
Primetime game, week 3. Yep.
32 years since I did it. Worked a game in the in Morgantown for football. Because remember, there were a couple of Atlantic 10 tournaments that took place in that building.
Yeah.
Plus Penn State playing West Virginia every year. So I've done maybe I've done a dozen games in the Coliseum, but I haven't done one there in 34 years. Even though Penn State scrimmaged there 4 years ago. It scrimmaged, but it was a scrimmage and it was on a football Saturday, so I wasn't there. But yeah, it's been a long time. Now I've done baseball there. I did baseball there 5 years ago.
Never been there for baseball.
And that's what I was on with the West Virginia broadcasters Friday night. And they were asking about the last time I was there. I said, I made the drive up Jed Jerko drive to the ballpark. And they started laughing. They go, he knows the name of the street. I said, come on, let's go. But it's been a while.
Ironically enough, the next guy playing in the infield for the West Virginia last year, drafted by the Cardinals. So
Yeah.
he'll be playing there too.
Right. But they still have, I believe, the monorail.
They do.
Monorail. What was it, The Simpsons? Monorail.
The Simpsons, I tell you,
Remember that? Monorail.
Yeah.
Monorail.
The
Right.
Simpsons
I think they're
is
trying
incredible for predictions. Incredible. I've never seen a show better.
They were trying to do what, a takeoff on, what was it? Hill comes to town and gets everybody convinced to throw in the money for a monorail. What's that old movie where the guy comes to town and tries to convince them to do something?
Don't know that one at all.
So between the charity quote and this,
that's just a failure of the last 10 minutes.
I'm gonna quote Jack Ham, you give me nothing.
Right.
You give me nothing.
That's right.
Well, that P,
Yeah.
based on today's show, stands for putts.
Putts are poor. I knew it was coming one way or another. Pitiful.
What do you got this? You got the State High home this week?
Home first time. Be home for the first time in a couple of weeks here. So get out to Memorial Field tomorrow night.
Who they got?
It's Altoona.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Should be a good game.
Yeah, should be a good
Good
one.
game. You guys always do a great job on the broadcast. You seem to care a lot more about that than doing this. I hope nobody takes this banner seriously. All right? I hope nobody does, because he's awesome. He's awesome. All right. Talk to you on Tuesday, I guess.